So it's time to talk about our frames. As you can see, I finished doing all of the inside of my project. I have my hill, I have my moon, I have my tree, and my ghosties are starting to populate my frame. You can also kind of tell by my frame that I've sort of beaten it up. And I did. I really did beat this up. So I'm starting to add on squiggles, just like the squiggles that I have for the example tile over here. I'm going to actually glaze these squiggles green so that I can make the best of it. So I have a scoring tool, I have a carving tool, I have some clay that I'm going to make some squiggles out of, and I have some other things. I'm going to have my ghosts. This is one of my little ghosties, get caught in the squiggles. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I don't draw the eyes in my ghosts. I poke them all the way through. Oops. I need to slip and score this guy a little bit better. And so this time I'm just poking it with a little paper clip and making little circles and then gently getting the boogers off, because we don't like the boogers, right? And then it looks like a little ghosty. Don't draw onto your ghosts, don't draw onto your project. Make sure that you are not making lines, but actually making shapes. So don't just take a tool and be like, oh, here's my eye, because they're not as impressive as going all the way through the clay and really having ghost eyes that look like ghost eyes. So that's something that's really important. It's the same thing. It's all of the shapes versus the forms thing all of the time, right? We always have to have shapes, not forms. So here's my little ghosty. Here are my squiggles. I got everything going. The first thing I'm going to do is not really care how neat this is, because I need to get my squiggles on. And so I'm going to cover most of this stuff up. I still haven't put in the buttons on yet, so I'm going to make some buttons too, remember? So my buttons still have to go on. I'm going to roll out a little worm in my hand. I just took a ball of clay, and then I rolled it into a nice beautiful ball of clay, and then I just roll my hands together like the Karate Kid, and then I have a little worm. Tell it it is a nice worm. Tell it it is a pretty worm. Make some room for yourself. Clear the deck. And then on the table, don't use a slab mat for this. You need to have friction. So if you don't have friction on here, if it's not getting stuck a little bit, then it's going to not roll out. So you're going to roll your hands on the table, and then you're going to pull your hands apart like this. Whee! And like, if it's the thinner, because I'm making squigglies, the better. So, and then I'm just going to knot up my squigglies, literally. Because I have a haunted house. So my squigglies don't have to look like perfect. They have to look good. So, but not perfect. I'm going to get my other scoring tool, and I'm going to get some slip. And I'm just going to blob my slip on, like literally. I don't care if this looks good or bad. I have to clean this tool off. I would never give anybody, especially Miss S, a dirty tool. And then I'm just going to set this on top. Because these are so thin, they're going to stick to each other, and I'm not going to have to worry about slipping and scoring. This is one of the reasons why I love this technique of just making these little squigglies. I like these little intestine-y things, is because as long as you've scored the base and you get it really thick on here, and you make a big mess, then you can do anything. The one thing you can't do, though, is you can't let these things sit around for very long. That I will say. very disappointing, but it's true. So I'm just going to grab it, I'm going to squiggle it. I'm going to try and make it look super interesting and twisty without actually making it going too crazy. And then I'm going to put them on my project. And if they go off the edge of the project, even better. So I'm going to take the ones that were a little dry and add them on the side and in other places. So it looks like they're just coming out. And I'm trying to press these in without pressing down too hard because I don't want my finger marks on them. But I mean, they're pretty well stuck. And I'm going to try and make this interesting rather than just having it be squiggles. Remember, I still have to put my buttons on. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to make my buttons. Oh, that looks like a pretzel. I like that. And then I'm just going to, like, ooh, I can put some on the side. I want my sides to be unloved. Just make sure the more slip you have on these, especially now, our projects are getting really stiff now. If you haven't noticed, you probably have. Your project is getting kind of stiff. We've been working on it for like a week. It's like, Miss S, why is my project so stiff? And so now I'm going to make my little buttons. Buttons. So the way I make my buttons is I'm going to make a ball of clay, and then I'm just going to press the ball into a shape that looks kind of flat. And then I'm going to get my modeling tool. Remember all the modeling tools we have? I'm going to grab one of them. This isn't the one I like, but I'm going to grab it. This is the one I like. So I'm going to grab the one I like, which has a little ball on it. I'm going to use the top to smooth it out. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's my button. I'm going to be now, my button's too big for me to sort of get away with what I want to get away with, which is not slipping and scoring it, but my button's too big. So I'm going to put it on gently, very gently. Because if you're mean to it, you have to do what I do, and then you have to redo everything. And then I'm going to do some wiggles again. Maybe I'm going to have them go on top of the button now. Okay, so maybe I want to do another button somewhere else. So it's the same way. Remember, this is just about sculpting things, right? Like, we want to make everything a form. We want everything to be 3D. We don't want things to not be 3D. So, you know, maybe this time with this button, because it's smaller, I can take something like my marker and I can dent in so that now I already have a dent. Now I'm going to, where's my scoring tool? My scoring tool is right by me. And then again, I'm going to go in. I'm a little mean to my clay today. I don't know why. You have to be nice to the clay or the clay is not going to be nice to you. I'm gonna put in my little buttons, my little button shape, and maybe this time I'm gonna put my button in between the wiggles. No, wait, I don't like this very much. I'm gonna put my button in between these wiggles so that the wiggle is on top of it and the button is underneath the wiggle. I like having the buttons sort of hidden in there. I think they look kind of interesting that way. And it's sort of like, ooh, it's a secret. Like, oops, don't drop the clay on the floor. Then you won't have it to make stuff out of. So again, I'm making a worm. I'm being nice to my worm because I'm going to stretch it out and I don't want it to crack on me. And then I'm just going to twist it. And set it on so that it looks like it is, I want this to be on top. Oh well, I'm not going to have it that way, so that it looks like it is interesting. And so my very last thing, I'm going to remind you how I made my ghosts, because I want to put a little, I want to have a couple of more little ghosties on here. So to make a little baby ghost, I am making a little ball of clay. I'm going to flatten my little ball of clay out so that it's not a perfect ball anymore. I'm going to take my loop tool. You have to scoop the inside of everything out no matter what. Take my little loop tool, scoop the inside of my ghost out. And then I'm actually going to take, because this is small, I'm going to use my tools. I notice you guys making ghosts, and some of you are not using your tools. You're trying to do this with your fingers and other things, and it's just so much easier when you're denting it with the tool. So I'm making those little like ripples and ruffles in the bottom of the ghost with the tool. And then I'm going to score it. My scoring tool has a lot of slip on there, so it is okay. I'm going to stick it on. I'm going to give them 2 little eyeballs by poking the eyeballs in. How cute that is. And then, again, get some slip. And remember, I hit this with the ruler. I just whacked it and whacked it and whacked it and whacked it and whacked it with the ruler until it basically did what I wanted. And it looked the way I wanted it to look. Because it's really important, right? It's super duper important to be like, oh, this is what I want. And look at, this guy's going to escape the wiggles. I'm going to make it look like the wiggle wants him, but it doesn't get him. And, you know, if I want to, I can go back in. If I'm not going to add anything more, I can get rid of those score marks with the modeling tool. So then it looks like this ghost just barely got away. Like, oh, it's reaching for him, but it doesn't have him. And then I can sort of erase all my score marks. And that's exactly how I wanted it to look. So now there's only one element that's missing from this. And that is my skeleton that I'm probably going to put on. So remember, don't ignore your frame. Your frame is just as important as the rest of your composition. So that's what's really important. And also don't ignore having things coming forward. Like there's nothing under this branch. There's nothing under this branch. There's nothing under here. But these things are coming forward. And I think it's really important that you remember to have those things and the little details. And like, you know, things like these ghosts getting caught up in the vines and the buttons getting caught up in the vines add stuff to this. that make it look more 3D. So have fun creating your tile because we're almost done.